Hi everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining, and so we'll get started. I think people are continuously joining. Let them join, but we'll get started. Okay. So I think a couple of weeks back we had a tickle scripting webinar, and so this week, today we would be talking about Perl scripting, and I think pretty much we have covered like kind of in the tickle. Okay, so where do we use tickle, inside tool, outside tool, and etc. But if you look at like tickle has certain limitations. When you have to process a bigger files, and if you want to come up with certain functions, or say you have to compare say two library releases, for example. I'm sure all of you are working in a VLSI industry, and as you might come across, or you might have already seen that you might have a different macro releases, and there could be pin location change, or the pin layer change. So it is going to be tedious task to go one by one and check all that manually. So if you have knowledge in scripting, and if you can come up with your own scripting, it could actually help your time a lot. Okay, so in such scenarios we would actually try to use Perl or Python. In any of that is okay, but since I'm quite familiar with Perl, I'm just covering Perl today. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. um, so before that, so who we are, so it's basically VLSI mentors, and so it's a team of professionals who have started this, and with the goal of delivering nothing but the practical, 100% practical, and whatever that we do in day-to-day basis. So whatever the works that we do on day-to-day basis, that's what our goal. And so myself Kumar, and I have a close to 22 years of experience, and 17 years in mentoring people. And this VLSI mentor started in April 22. And our expertise includes the complete backend, implementation, all the way from synthesis and top level PD, block level PD, subsystem, STA, and timing closures and everything. Okay, and so currently we are offering physical design mentorships, and then EDA scripting mentorship, which is going to start from next week, and synthesis and STA also would be starting soon. Okay, and so that is about the institute. And so this EDA scripting mentorship, the plan is basically, this is the whole plan. So the languages covered is basically, both Tickle and Perl. It is to an completely advanced level. So duration is going to be say 8 weeks, and the timing is going to be 10:30 to 12:30, every Saturday, Sunday. And you would get complete a virtual machine with Linux OS and all the required files loaded in that. And we will also be giving you ICC2 and PT for 30 days. As I mentioned, this is completely practical, and we would be sharing a lot of problems, discussing a lot of problems and solving it, and how to automate it, and etc. And to discuss, among the others, right, like kind of, to have a discussion, right, like if there are any technical discussions or group, the course related, materials related, and recording related, all that, so there will be a Telegram group which will be created. Okay. Okay, so let's get started on the poll. Okay, so what is Perl? So Perl is basically an interpreted programming language, and if you look at the the Perl meaning, it is a practical extraction and reporting language. Okay, and it is also called as a high level language. And if you look at it, like kind of, we have many languages. Say for example, you can also get started with the shell, C shell, TC shell, bash. There are many other things, but here it is a faster than your shell scripting. And then in shell you need separate set and awk and all that, but here you don't need it, because Perl gives you all those flexibilities. Whatever that you wanted to do, column sort, or you wanted to search and replace, and etc. Okay, and it built around regular expressions. Okay, and regular expressions are good for string processing and text processing and etc. Now, this Perl is basically used a lot, in same to cover multiple tasks. Say, for example, like kind of file processing, text manipulation, system administration, network programming, and code generation, and etc. Okay, so it is just another programming language which gives you more and more flexibility. Okay, okay. So now, how do you execute this file? So what is a file format? So ideally, if you ask me, so the file format that we use is basically, say, it is a kind of .pl format. Okay, so anything that you put it in the file, and we call it like kind of Perl script, it would be in the .pl format. That is a format that normally we save it. Okay, now how do you execute it? Say, simple, like kind of if you look at it, like, so you might have, I'm sure every one of you might be have experience in Linux. Okay, and so you just have to type Perl, and then you can execute all your commands. Okay, and then press Control D, and it executes the whole code. So this is basically a direct execution, which is, I don't really, follow this method because our scripts are the best way to execute. Okay, so put everything in a script, and then uh, you know um, run that to get your works done. But this is actually, say, sometimes there are certain things called Perl one liners. Okay, so this is one way. So Perl one liners also there, and probably you can actually go and look for it after the webinar. Okay. So the second method is basically, Perl scripts. Put all your commands in a file and save that in the .pl format. And remember, each command has to be separated by, say, either semicolons or say new lines. Okay. And the example, like if you look at it, like how the file has to be and all that, so it would be, say, something like kind of slash bin. That is the first line where your compiler is located. Okay, so this is the first line. It should always, you should add this so that the tool, the compiler, when you try to execute this compiler, say Perl or TCL/SH, or say any other, say C shell or Bone shell. So whatever that you try to write, the first line should always point your compiler path. And then, so this is how we actually put it. So ideally speaking, so you need to have a semicolon here. Okay, and then so just you can run this script, say, using Perl, that is a keyword. Okay, and then hello vlsi.pl. So assume this is the file. Now it just goes and executes, and it prints hello vlsi world. Okay, and the second one, the method is, you, without even giving this Perl keyboard, right? Like you can still run it, but only thing is you need to have this first line. So now here the file has to be in an executable format. So the first line should contain the compiler path, and the file should have a execute permission. So normally it is like kind of, say there is a 777 kind of permission, right? Say, right, it's kind of, you are the owner and you are the group and then anyone individuals. Okay. Then you will have it like kind of, read, write, and then execute. So you should have the execute permission, then you can actually run this through. Okay. And so now it is a good practice to add comments. Okay. When we are writing a code, it is a good practice to add comments, because we see, probably today you might be writing a code, but probably, you might come back and revisit that file or the script after, say, 2 months. Okay. Now you may not remember, for what purpose you have written that particular piece of code. And here, so if you add comments, it is always good. Okay, this is the purpose. Say, for example, you might say like kind of, okay, I'm opening a file and I'm just going to parse this particular keyword and etc. Okay, so now comments, adding comment is one of the important thing that I would consider it's like enough, in my team I always push for it. Okay, so single line commands, it can just always put add hash at the starting, and the whole line kind of treated as a comments. And now let's say you have a line, say for example now, um, the second method is kind of say you have a line which is kind of say you have a semicolon and you can add anything here. So this is also, we can call it like kind of the comments. So this also we call it like kind of say you can add here, say this is a comment. Okay, so commenting is, adding comments is one of the important thing when you try to write a scripts. And the next one is, say single line comments are okay, but now let's say you wanted to comment a bunch of code, or say a bunch of line. Now how do you do that? Say now to do that, you should actually have it like kind of say you need to add this equal and then ends with say equal cut. So anything between this, say from here to here, it is all commented. So which means, let's say you have some 100 lines of code which you wanted to comment, you don't want to delete it. Okay, so we call it like kind of say bulk comment. All right, so now this cut, equal cut is the end of multiple line commands. So this is how you would actually create, add comments, or probably comment multiple lines. Okay, so before continuing this, so the way I wanted to deliver this webinar is, say we would just try to cover all the basics as much as possible, and then we will go into the Linux environment, and then we will discuss some of the problems, and we will try to write simple codes so that like you can get started. Okay, so please be patient, and I'll make sure you learn everything before you leave from this webinar. Okay, so continuing further, so the data types. So we have a three data types in Perl. One is basically scalar, so, and then the second one is array, and the third is a hash. Now if you look at here, hash, the scalar, so there is, it doesn't matter like whether it is an integer, float, string, and etc. It's just treated as like kind of regular variable. Okay, and when, and it's kind of just like any other language. Okay, now array, so it is a kind of any kind of data. See, it could be like kind of integer, float, string, reference, array, hash, and etc. Where here there could be more than one elements. That is the main thing here. But whereas in scalar there would be only one value. Okay, but whereas in array you may have a one or more elements, one or more elements. Okay, and hash. Now you may have elements basically here in hash, right? Like you may have a, say keys and values. Okay, so that is the main thing. So ideally speaking, hash is something that is a advanced level. Okay, okay, so what is scalar? Okay, so scalar basically starts with dollar. So in tickle, if you guys look at it, like kind of, we call it like kind of set A is 10. Okay, so this is basically in tickle. Okay, but when it comes to Perl, it would be like kind of, we have it like kind of, say dollar. So you don't have anything like kind of, set and etc. You can just go ahead and say dollar A equal to 10 and semicolon. So this is the kind of syntax. So this is a tickle, and say this is a Perl. Okay, and say it starts with dollar in case of scalar. And if you have a statement that has to end with a semicolon, see here, if you look at here, see this is the line, and this is basically your another line which ends with a semicolon. And remember, in tickle, we don't have to worry about your semicolons and etc. You just have to, break it and move to a next line. It would the tickle compiler would take it like kind of okay, that's a new line. But here, Perl is little bad in terms of syntax. That's why you need to use always each and every line must end with a semicolon. Okay, so the scalar variables can hold strings and numbers and they are interchangeable. And next, the variable names are case sensitive. Say, for example, now say dollar $ABC and dollar $ABC are two different variables. So it is not like kind of, they are same. So variable names are case sensitive. So you have to be very careful. And, as a practice, I normally follow small case. When I write a lot of code, when I write anything that try to automate it, I always go and use small letters so that like kind of it is easy for you to we don't whether did I use capital A or small b, capital C, and etc. So I always follow a practice of like kind of so small letters. And underscores are allowed. Say for example, if you look at here a simple thing like kind of priority class say A. See, it is like kind of variables can have underscores. Okay, and the next important thing is, so what is this my? See, there is something like kind of we use, say use strict and use warnings. So these two lines is basically going to check, normally I add it in the script to check, the syntax in a strict manner. Okay, so here it is kind of you defining a scope, at what scope you are actually going to define this. So I always try to use these two things where you are actually telling the compiler to check the syntax little stricter manner. Okay, so when you use first, when you declare a variable for the first time, I always prefer using my keyword to indicate the variable scope. Remember, it is not necessary, but as a good programming practice. Okay. Okay, and now the next is so arithmetic operations. So any programming language that you take it like kind of the operations. So arithmetic operations are important one. Okay, because that's going to help you a lot. Okay, now look at here. Say how do you add it here? So now in case of tickle, what did we how we do it in tickle? Say for example, set A 10 and then say set B 15. Now you wanted to do arithmetic operation, say dollar $A plus dollar $B, which would eventually return 25. Okay. Now you were kind of we were trying to use expr over there when it comes to tickle, but here you don't have to worry about all that. So you just have to go and say, okay, you're kind of saying 1 plus 2, which is basically now the value 3 would be stored in this dollar $A. Okay, and whatever the results end results would be again stored here, subtract, and then multiplication. Okay, and division, and then it is a kind of power, and divided, it's basically modulus, basically finding a remainder. Okay, so these are all some of the arithmetic operations that we normally use in any other, like the way we use in any other language. Okay, and now so another thing is, I'm sure if you guys would have gone through C, so you have a plus plus I kind of thing, or I plus plus kind of things. So here also we have a, so plus plus, that is a pre increment, and then this is something like kind of post plus, and then minus, and here also minus. Okay, and the next important thing is, like as we discussed in the tickle, it is basically you defining which is your the order in which it has to execute. Now if you look at here, say 5 minus 2 into 2 is not equal to 5 minus 2, 5 minus 2 into 2. So you should always use this brackets or parentheses to define the order of execution. Okay, so that like see the end of the day, I always say like kind of the tools and the compilers, they are always blind, they just follow blindly whatever the user actually gives the instructions. Okay, Okay. So let's just quickly go over the first program. Okay, so now this is the first line where we define our the compiler path, and as I mentioned, use strict and use warnings, as I always wanted to enable strict syntax checking. And if there are warnings, yes, the tool would issue a warning. Okay, now say warnings, right, like kind of say the first variable, first time we are declaring dollar $b, which is basically 10. And see here, if you look at, this is a comment. This whole section is basically a comment. And here another variable dollar $c, which is 30, and this is a comment. Now imagine, see, you define my dollar $b is basically 5. Now this variable is already defined scope, so it would issue a warning. Okay, so basically only first time you have to define this my, second time you don't need it. Okay, so that's the kind of warnings it would actually display. That is why I kind of say, only for the first time you have to define the scope, not every time. Okay, now here if you look at, say, my dollar $a, where I'm just adding both, performing the operation, and then I'm printing it. Okay, so here we use, so in tickle we have it like kind of say puts. Okay, but whereas in Perl it is called print. So if you guys remember, you have a print f in C and all. Okay, but here it is just a print. Okay, and now anything that you put it in double quote, the variable substitution happens, and all that, you can actually format it in a better way, or whatever the message that you wanted to print it. Okay. Okay, so this is a program two where I've just highlighting the multiple line comments. Say for example, you have a kind of say this is a line number 10, and say you have too many lines. Say like this is line number 30. Okay, now so you wanted to comment. So as I mentioned, so use equal, and then from the line that you wanted to comment, and then end it with hyphen equal to cut. It would actually comment all these lines. Okay, and here again, so multiple lines. All right, and now what is the slash n meaning? So it's basically when you're printing, right, like kind of you have to print it like kind of new line, where in tickle it actually always prints it, say kind of puts, say 10. So it would print, and then it would come back to your new line, the next line. But whereas in Perl it would just say print, you just say 10 and do this, what it will do? Say it would just print, say kind of you say Perl a.pl, you just run this script. Now you know what it will do? So it would like kind of 10 percentage, and then it will come and print like this, it will wait like this. So which means the message printed and the shell would be immediately after that, whatever that you are printing. So that's why it is, you need to practice, or you need to keep adding slash n whenever you are printing something. And we also discussed about slash t, where it could actually push the tab. See, your file starts from here, assume if this is your file, the slash t would, instead of starting from here, it would start from here. So it is basically a spacing at the starting. Okay. Okay, now so the next, say, strings and assignment operators. Okay, so now what does this meaning is, basically say now you have a kind of say two variables, say kind of dollar $b and dollar $c, both of them would be concatenated. Say kind of this is say ABC, and this is say CDE. It could be like kind of ABC CDE, it would be stored in dollar $a. Okay, now the other method is the other thing is, like here you have say kind of x. So which means, say, ABC into 3, which means it would print ABC, ABC, ABC. Okay, so this is basically dollar $b is repeated these many times. Okay, and then now you want to assign value from variable, or say one variable value to the say another variable. Now you can actually use this simply. Okay, now say we talked about like kind of say 1 plus 2 something like that, right? Like kind of say dollar a is equal to 1 plus 2 something. Now let's say dollar a is basically 5. Now dollar b is basically 7. Now you want to add both and store it in a. Now you can actually use the same thing, like dollar a is equal to, say this exactly equal to dollar a is equal to dollar a plus dollar b. So that is the meaning of the same code. Okay, so you can, instead of you adding a dollar a again over here, you can just add say plus equal and then say dollar b. Okay, this would actually add both a and b and store that value in dollar a. Okay, and the next one say similar. See here you have this dollar a minus dollar b and you want to save that back. Okay, and it's kind of appending it. So these are all the language support that's available. Okay, so you can actually use whatever that is applicable, or whichever you feel it is easy for you. Okay, so the next one, so we have talked about the variable types, basically scalar types. Now the next one is basically arrays. See, simple, really, kind of, as we know that, in VLSI, we have, array is a common, we would be using array a lot. Okay. A simple, really, kind of, say you have a rich to rich path. Okay. Now you want to get all the cells present in this path. Okay. Say now inst 1, inst 2, inst 3, say inst 4, and then say this is your start point 1, say this is your end point 1. Okay, now you want to keep all these, the path 1, it's basically you want to keep all these cells. Say you might end up in storing many elements in an array. Okay, or say simple, right? Like kind of you might have a array where you want to get list of inverters available in libraries and etc. So you will end up in actually having a more than one element. So we end up in using the array syntax in such situations. Okay, now the next one, so the statements must end with semicolon. So it doesn't matter whether it's scalar or array or any of it, right? Like it always they have to end with a semicolon, and used to store the list of values and each object of the list termed as an element. Now remember, array is basically, it is like kind of, you can call it like kind of say a thing with a location. Say for example, now this is kind of, see, array, it is like kind of multiple elements. Okay. Now, if you look at this particular thing, see, this is, see, location 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, say there are, now if you look at here, what is the total number of elements in this? So it is basically, say, there are 8 elements. Okay. So people call it like kind of array size. Okay, array size or array length and etc. So it is going to be say 8. But if you look at, say, each of the elements, say your inst 1, you might have it like kind of say the inst 1 might be, see, you can keep, you might want to keep it I1, I2, I3 and etc. Okay, so the arrays are basically can accommodate multiple elements and there is no limit. Okay, so don't think that okay, there could be 50 or 40 or 100 or etc. So they're kind of dynamically allocatable and there is no limit. Okay, and they are, as usual, the names are, the variable names are case sensitive, underscores are allowed. And as I mentioned, I always define or say use my keyword to define the scope. Now if you look at here, say the at is the syntax. The tool, the compiler would understand, okay, this is an array. Okay, and then this is a variable or whatever the array name, and then you can actually put it like kind of, say bracket, like kind of, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. See, now if you look at here, there are five elements in this array. And if you go and query the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, the location, so queries the location 2, you will get like kind of, say 30. Now how do you get this particular location, or say query particular element? Say dollar num array, say 0. Now 0 meaning the first element, you can actually take it. Okay, and say 1 meaning you can actually get the second element. Now say 2 meaning third element. So something like this. Say you can actually process the whole array, or you wanted to, figure out only say particular location, you wanted to extract or, know what it is in certain locations. This is the way. Say dollar your, array under the location, say 5 meaning it is something like this. Okay, so this is one way. You can put it in double, the in between the brackets. And there is another way, is basically, see, you can just say code. Now you can actually, you don't need to say in string, right? Like kind of, for numbers you can just keep it like this. But you know what, normally when it comes to string, you need to add double quote and then comma double quote and then comma double quote and then comma double quote for each of it. So it becomes too much, tedious. So to make our life easier, you can actually use this qw, and then anything that you put, so it treats each of them as a individual elements. Okay, so this is, these two are, there are many other ways, but pretty much these two I use on my day-to-day basis. Okay. Okay. So the next one, now let's learn little more on the array part. Okay, so as usual, the first line contains your compiler path. And next, so how do we define the array? So as I mentioned in the previous slide, right, like kind of, say if you have to define it individually, say if you, instead of this, say if you would have used qw and then, put all the things together, that is the one way. Now the second way method is, say you can also go and define it like this. So where it would actually look at, okay, you have to put a double quote and then comma and all that. Okay, now another array I'm actually trying to define here, where, 1 2 3 4 5 6, where I'm actually mixing the strings as well. See, these are all numbers, and I'm trying to mix the string as well. Okay, now there is another method where you wanted the elements to be like kind of, 1 to 100. So you are kind of, looking at, say your intention is to have a array elements 1 to 100. So instead of you typing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 all the way till 100, you know what you can do? One double dot and then 9. So this would be like kind of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 up to 9. Okay, now the another method, for alphabets, is basically say a to a, again double quote, double dot and then h. So it would be like kind of a b c d e f g h. So this method also you can actually use it. Okay, and let's say now you want to concat both the arrays. Okay, so you wanted to concat, multiple arrays, where, say array 1, array 2 and array 3, all these would be concated, and then it would be, stored in this particular variable. And one thing here is that, say in tickle, the for each command, Okay, so let's say you wanted to print all the elements in the list one by one. Now for each, say var, say dollar list. Now in tickle, you have to use, open the curly braces here itself. Okay, of it. Okay, and you have to end it over here. But whereas in Perl, you can either follow this, or you can also start it in the new line, the next line also. Okay, so but I normally try to keep it like kind of here, so that like kind of so now it is its individual's choice. Okay, so some people would, okay, easy for them to debug, okay, where it is opening and where it is getting closed. So some people follow this method, but somehow I got used to the tickle kind of syntax, where I always add it over here. So now to print each and every individuals, the individual elements, so we use for each. Okay, and here also I used my dollar var, and say this variable, say VLSI. Now when you try to print all of this, say it would be like kind of printing RTL, DV, say DFT, and say synth, and each and everything would be printed in the one element. Each and every element would be printed in each, separate line. Okay, and let's say now you want to get the array size. Okay, so now how do we do that? Say it is like kind of, say there is a scalar variable. Okay, that is going to have your value, and just say at array, it would actually return the array length. Okay, say now you wanted to print it like kind of, say print array length and the array size. It will print actually, say kind of how many elements are there in this particular array. Okay. Okay, so any questions? I see a couple of people have raised hand. So why don't you guys type your questions? I'll answer. You guys can type your questions. I'll answer. Okay, no questions. So the question is how to get instances between a reg to reg. So that is basically you have to do it in. See, there are two things here. One is you can actually, if you are having a tool, okay, and you can actually say this question is, say for example, say now in this case, say you have a multiple start points and multiple end points. Say for example, this is SP1 start point one. This is SP2. Say this is end point one. Now you can actually, there are two things here. One is if you are using the tool, then you can use get timing paths. Okay, get timing paths command, and then you can say hyphen from hyphen two. You can actually use that, and that is one method. Other method is say write out a report. Say report timing. Okay, report timing. Say hyphen from SP1 hyphen 2, say EP1, and then write a code to process those cells. That is another method. Okay, so you can actually follow whatever that you wanted to do it inside the tool, outside the tool. It all purely depends on your need. Okay. Okay, so there is one more question: how to know all the macros count and the names in the design? I think you should refer my previous webinar recording, which is posted in YouTube, VLS Cementer's channel. I think you will find an answer over there. So that is a more of a tickle question. okay, or probably physical design related thing. So you can actually refer my previous recording where I have discussed about that. Okay, moving on in the interest of time. Okay, so now we have got the arrays. Now how do you say in tickle, right? Like say you have lists. So in tickle it is called a list. Okay, in Perl it is array, so they both are similar. Okay, so in tickle also we have something like array. That array and this array, they are different, so don't get confused. So in tickle we have something called a list. The equivalent in Perl is basically array, and here in tickle we have a arrays. The equivalent in Perl is basically hash. So here you have associative array, single dimensional array, double dimensional array. So the same case here also, you have a hash, which is the advanced data structure where you can actually store your data in a much more organized manner. Okay. Okay. Now, so let's say you have got an array. Now, how do you process that array? Let's say you wanted to um, add, say for example, you already have say there is a food, dollar food. Okay, say at food is basically going to have, say, kind of say rice, dal, say something like this. Okay, now you want to add this eggs and bread. Okay, now you want to add this, what you can do is say push. Push is the keyword, that array operation keyword, where these two would be added on top of this. Say basically now only two here, two variables over here, two elements over here, whereas now the x and breads would be added on top of it. Now eventually the at food will now even have four elements, so where your x and bread got added. So push returns the new length of the list after adding these two elements that you wanted to add it. Okay, now let's say you want, now this is to add the element at the last. Okay, now you want to remove an element from the last. So now how do we remove it? Say for example, now you want to remove bread. Okay, now say pop removes and returns the last element. Say now you just use pop, and that array, the last element would be removed and it would be stored in say this variable. Say push and pop. So we would be using it a lot. Okay, so now your homework. See, we talked about you adding it at the end. Okay, now if you have to add it at the start. Okay, so how do you go about it? How do you go and add it at the start? Okay, say you have a kind of say rice and dal. Now instead of you adding this two at the end, now you, or say you want to add something in the starting. Okay, say here. Okay, now what is that keyword, or what operations you would actually have to use? Okay, so that you can actually take a look at that, take it as a homework and you can go and give a try. Okay, so how add a add an element at the start of a array. Okay, that is one. And say remove an element in the first element. Remove the first element. Now how do you do that? Okay, so these were all some of the Google interview questions. So anyone who's trying to appear in Google, so these were all some of the interview questions. When they eventually look for tickles, basically the scripting skills. And so it doesn't matter like whether it is a tickle or Perl. They just assume it like say assume you have either treat it as a list or array, and then how do you add an element at the start, and how do you remove the first element, or how do you add an element at the end, and how do you remove the last element. So these are all typical Google interview questions. Okay, so now the push and the pop basically helps you to add or remove the elements in your list. Okay, and then the next one is basically, so there is a special array called argv. Say for example, sometimes what we do is, say we run the script, execute the script. This is how we actually run it. Now you know what, sometimes you might wanted to give additional informations along with your script when while you're running the script. Say it is like kind of ABC. Okay. Now you wanted to process these elements inside the script. Now what, how you can actually do that is, at argv will actually have these informations. Okay. So it will be kind of array where the first element would be A, the next element would be B, and this next element would be C. Okay. So this is a special array. So probably this is available in pretty much all the programming languages. Okay. So in Tickle also we have. Okay. So in Tickle also we have the similar argb, argc. Okay. So argv is basically all the values, and argc will have only the number of values that are passed. Okay. So this is a special array which probably you can use it. So the reason is like why, you might wonder, Kumar, do we actually kind of have the do we have a scripts which is kind of being do you pass arguments like this? Yes, very much. Say for example, right, like kind of assume I'm going to, I have a I have a say script. Okay. Say macro compare. Say I have a script macro compare dot tickle, or say compare.pl. Okay. Now, so when I try to execute this, so the way I execute is say Perl macro compare dot pl, and say file the first left, the previous release, or say left one. Okay. And then say left two, that is the latest release. Okay. Now you might want to take these two and compare what changed between these two. Okay. Say there could be a macro, 10 macros in both the lefts, or say left one may have a kind of 10 different macros, left two may have a 15 different macros. So it is basically you can actually point your scripts, or say your inputs. Okay. Because say for example, like kind of this is a script. Now I would be giving people how to use this, the usage of the script, and people can actually, you go and point their things. Because say assume you're a 30-member team. Okay. Now individuals may don't need to edit this file. They can actually, whatever they want, they can actually pass it as an argument, and they can execute the script. Sometimes what happens is, if I try to let people edit it, this semicolon they might miss somewhere, and they will eventually come back saying, hey Kumar, the script is kind of erroring, can you take a look at it? So that's why when you are going to write a script which can be used, or which could be used by the team, you always try to pass multiple inputs, and you process that using this variable, or say this special array. Okay. Okay. So now I think that is the conclusion for array. Now the next is basically now the conditional operators. Okay. So now, like any other language, we also have a lot of conditional operators. Say for example, now you have something. See, remember in Tickle we normally don't have this kind of string based compare. Let's say you're trying to compare two string. It is always good to use EQ in Perl, but in Tickle you just try to go and use the same thing, or say string compare and etc. So here, anything that you wanted to compare two numbers, okay, you might want to use this syntax, and you wanted to compare two strings, or the variable that you are trying to compare, if it is a string, then use equal EQ, and say less than, and here lt, and say greater than. Now here it is the greater than symbol, and whereas here it is a gt, and this one is basically less than or equal, and this is going to be say le, less than or equal, whereas here it is a greater than or equal. Now say it is a ge, and not equal. Okay. Say exclamatory mark and then equal, not equal, whereas here you can just keep it like kind of ne, whereas the logical and, it's basically double ampersand, and this one is basically, you can, if you are trying to compare, say if both of them are, logically equal or not. And now that would be, say, kind of and logical or is basically pipe. Okay, and here it is called or, and not meaning exclamatory, whereas here it is a not. Say, now we use this a lot in the your loops, or say conditional checks and etc. So you have a lot of the loops and etc that we will be covering now. Okay, so we would be using them, these operators a lot. Okay, so now control loops. See here, if you look at here, we have a kind of, like any other language, like we have a if else, and if else. Okay, now a simple thing. So if in tickle you don't use the square brackets in this kind of, if and all this. So what normally in tickle we use is, say it is like kind of, say $a equal to 5. See, this is how we use in tickle. Okay, but whereas in Perl, so the first is basically the brackets, and then the curly braces opens. Say this is a kind of, you can say kind of, the condition check, and then this is the body. So body is always like kind of, you can assume it like to be inside the curly braces, and this one is basically, say, brackets. Okay, so if $a double equal to 5, meaning, see, a is equal to 5. Now else, see here, say it is $a double equal to 5, that means equal to 5, else it is not equal to 5. See, there are scenarios where you might use only if. There are scenarios where you might use both if and else. Okay, and there might be scenarios where you may have multiple if conditions. See, that's what we call it, like kind of if else if, ELSIF, else if. Say here, if it is a less than 5, okay, here it is, say, greater than 5, and then else. So if both these conditions are not true, then obviously it is going to be, say, 5. Okay, equal to 5. So it is basically if else. Okay, so you can actually use multiple, else ifs depending on your need. All right, now the next one. Okay, say while loop. So what is use of while loop? See, while loop is basically if loop. Basically, if you look at it, like kind of, it actually checks only one time. Okay, it checks only one time whether it is a true or not. But whereas while loop, it actually keeps executing till this, as long as this is actually true. Okay, now if you look at here, say you are initializing it $a to be 10. Okay, and then while $a less than 20, it will keep executing. So which means, say, print the value, and then now $a is basically $a plus 1, which means it is going to print the first time 10, next 11, 12. So it is going to print all the way till 19, and after printing 19, this $a now will have a, say, 20. Okay, now this 20 is basically not less than 20, so it basically comes out. So which means the while loop will keep executing as long as the condition is basically true. Okay, and Perl also has the do while. Okay, now remember, while loop executes, say the condition is being evaluated upfront. So which means there is no guarantee that at least whether it will even execute once. Say if the condition is true, it will get execute. But when it comes to do while, say here, look at here, it is $a is 10, and then do. So this do part would be executed first, irrespective of the condition. Okay, it would be executed, and then the next time whether it is supposed to execute or not depends on this condition. See, that is the only difference. Where while is the condition is checked upfront, whereas in do while, the it is guaranteed that one time it executes, and next time, if the condition is true, then it will get executed. So it is basically say a do while loop is basically similar to a while loop, just that except the loop is guaranteed to execute at least one time. So that means at least one time this loop gets executed in case of do while, whereas in case of while, there is no guarantee. Okay. So where do we use while loop? So when you are trying to process your files and etc., we actually use the while to read the files and etc. Okay. Okay. So now the next one is basically your for loop and for each loop. Say it is like C programming, like we have a for, say I is 10 and dollar $I less than 20 and I plus plus or whatever it is. Now you see here, when you are defining a new variable, always use that my, and there's a initialize part, there's a first part, okay, and there's a condition checking, okay, there's a second part, and then this is basically the third part, okay. So whereas there's a initialization, conditional checking, and then third is incremental, and then if it is true, execute this particular piece of code, okay. Now the next one is basically for each, whereas you have assume you have a, the list. It's basically I would say it's a kind of array. Okay, so you take it like kind of an array. So this when you have this at symbol, it is always array, right? So now for each my dollar a, and then print one by one. So it see now here you have to define like kind of till what level it has to go. But now imagine you don't know how many variable the elements are going to be there. Say there might be a array array A which may have a say 100 elements. So there may be array B which may have 1,000 and you have no idea. So now how do you process such in such times or such scenarios? So you would actually go and execute the for each, use for each to print everything. Okay. So I normally use for each a lot, irrespective of whether it is a tickle or Perl, and that's my favorite. One of the loop execution. Okay, so any questions before we continue? Okay, so the next one, it is basically something called subroutines. So in Tickle, we have heard about something called procedures, and in C, it is a function. Okay, so they are actually all one and same. So a Perl subroutine or function is a group of statements that together performs a task. So now how do you come up with your function? So it is up to you actually, how it is going to work, what code that you would be repeatedly, executing. Okay, so now it's up to you. You can, come up with your own functions. Now the syntax here is basically say sub, whereas in Tickle we call it like kind of say proc. Okay, now say this is your syntax, the keyword, and this is the name, and then say this is the body. And now how do you call that? Say in Tickle you just say proc abc. Okay, so you just have to call abc. Whereas in Perl you have to use this ampersand in the starting, and then you have to, so then only the function will get executed. Okay, so this is the kind of syntax for the subroutines. Okay, so let's take a look at a few things. Say a simple sub hello. So now how do you actually call this? You can actually call it like kind of, say ampersand hello, or say you can actually even call it like kind of, double quotes, the brackets. say subject, the subroutines name, and then say what is the body that you wanted to print, and close bracket. Okay, so now the next one example is, say for example, say average. So basically you are going to pass certain values. Say average is the thing. Okay, and you actually pass that, and it actually adds all of that, and then returns you an average. Okay, so now remember, whenever there is a subroutines, or say even in tickle procs, I always have a return statement in place. Okay, so that actually, your subroutine is successfully executed or not, and etc. So uh, you should always have your return statement defined. Okay. um, so the next is the important topic. Okay, the file operation. So we use lot of, we basically read the files. Say for example, simple log file parser. Okay, or say you are writing out a timing report. Now that report, the timing report parser and all that. Okay, now if you look at here, say the files can be opened, or the modes, the different modes of file operations are basically, one is read mode, write mode, append mode. Okay, and now, so let's say you wanted to handle those files. Now how do you open, how do you close it, and how do you write into a file, and etc. Say we use, say open to, open the files. Okay, either for read or write or append mode. Okay, and then just give me a second. Okay, so anytime um, you try to open, okay, and after you processing that file content, it is good to close it. Okay, and see, I think seems like, well, preparing the ppt, they are become caps, so but it's all small letters. Okay, so any file that you open for read, write, append, you should, before you exit your code, you should always close it, so that the content, whatever it is there, it would probably, s- flushed into that file. Okay, now print. So you want to print something, or say reading is fine, but let's say you want to write something in that file. Now you should use this print function. Okay, and then read is again to read something, if you know the whole content. And stat, the file stat. So there may be many actually, so I cannot capture everything. So I have just captured only few important things that I normally use it. See, sometimes, I may have a file. That file, someone might give that path, but that file may not even exist. They might have given, made a typo. Okay, or the file may not have a read permission. So you can actually query the stat and say if you have enough permissions and etc. So these are all some of the functions that I normally use it. Okay, now, say, now how do you go and read, the open a file in read mode. Say it is like kind of, use this open and less than symbol. So it is basically kind of read only mode. Okay, and then say greater than symbol. Now if the file is existing, okay, then it clears the whole file content and writes. Now if the file does not exist, then it creates a new file. Okay, so that's basically, if you're kind of trying to write it into a file, where if the file exists, it will try to, clear existing content and write it. And if the file does not exist, then it will try to create a new file. Now the next one is basically, you have a append. So double greater than symbol, it's basically, if the file exists, anything that you are trying to print, it will append. If the file does not exist, then it creates one. Okay, say here it is like kind of reads and writes. Okay, and then this is basically, reads and writes and etc. So pretty much if you ask me, I use these three things only. Okay, these three are the main things that I normally use it. Okay, so now how do you do that in the Perl, your file operations? So now if you look at here, say reading a file, say open, and this is your internal variable that you would be using it. Okay, and this is your file path. Okay, so your dollar file path and etc. Now remember, in the previous slide, for reading a file, we need to use this less than symbol. Okay, but by default, the Perl actually reads the file. Now you can actually do it here, either less than symbol or even without that symbol also. By default, the file, the default mode is read mode. Okay, so now if you see here, when I try to open a file in write mode, I need to use this greater than symbol here. And at the same time, if I wanted to read, the file, read a file, I need to use the less than symbol. Okay, so now here, open, this is the file handler or file pointer, and this is the file that I'm interested in opening. Okay, and then next is basically die. Say what if the file is present? Yes, well and good. It will try to open. Now, what if the file does not exist? Say it will print this information. Say it is a die. That means it will basically come out by printing this message. So open of say dollar file name failed. Okay, it would actually print this message saying this particular file does not exist or does not have a permissions and etc. So the next one is basically assume your file is successfully opened. Now I use while loop to go over each line. Okay, now here, um, there's a file pointer, and when you put it in this while loop, it goes all the way till your EOF, end of file. EOF. So it actually, once it reaches, it gives -1, okay, value. So that means the while loop will be exited. That means it has gone through all the things. So now, why do you need this chomp? So remember, when you are actually trying to read a file, you will have the new line character in each of it. Say, for example, see, you have a line A, B, C, D, E. There would be something like kind of /n in the end. So it is a kind of say new line character that would be at the end. Say there are two things here. One is we can use chomp, okay, or say there is a chop. Okay, so chop basically removes the last, irrespective of whether it's /n or e or whatever. It removes the last character, whereas the chomp removes only the new line character. So I always prefer chomp. And here, if you look at here, right, like kind of, I have not defined in which variable that has to be, store that each line. Okay. Now, the biggest thing here is Perl has certain internal variables, say dollar underscore, say at underscore and etc., where the content, after you getting it, say for example, now each line, say dollar underscore will have the each line content one by one. And say if you are passing something, say at underscore, see it may have any values that are you actually passing from, when you are actually having a subroutines. And then you actually print one by one the basically the each line, and then after that you basically close. Now, what is the use of you just opening and printing and closing? But that's not what we normally do in industry. Okay, so you would actually go and process the log file. So this could be your log file, say placement log file, synthesis log file, or sta flow log file. Now you might wanted to grep all the warnings and errors and etc. Okay, or now it might be a timing report. Okay, timing report, or say now you might have a utilization report, or say congestion report. Okay, or say your don't use cells report. So all those things, so it can be anything. So now once you open the file, you wanted to process it, so you might want to put the piece of code inside here. Okay, and the next one is basically, so as I mentioned, you should always close the files once you know, whenever you done with your process. Okay, now the second one is writing a file. See, you kind of, this use the same open keyword, and there's a file handle out file. See, this can be anything. You can actually keep ABC or anything. So there is, I just keep it like, meaningful name. So file handle in only reading, and file handle out meaning that is a out, write out. So here it is greater than symbol, which would actually open the file in write mode. And as usual, if there is no permission or the location does not exist, then it will actually print a error message. Okay, now you have an array which you wanted to write out, or say you have a some data which you wanted to write out in the file. Now, say while, or say it can be anything. Okay, now print is the function we use to print. Now you wanted to print that in a file. Now you have to use this keyword here. If you give this, that means the compiler understands the content has to be printed in this file. Okay, whatever the you are getting here, right, like that has to be printed in this file. And then once you say close, all the temporary things, it kind of keeps adding it, and it might have not flushed all the content into the file. So when you close it, all whatever that you have here, it would have all written. Okay, so that is a writing a file. Okay, so this is how we normally open a file and read, and then open a file and write content inside, and etc. Any questions? So we'll go over few basic programs now. Okay. Okay. So now if you look at this particular program, so now as I mentioned, the first line is basically I have my compiler path, use strict and warnings, and my file path. So this is the path where I have my .lib, which is kind of saved it. Okay, so there's only that particular cell .lib that I have actually cut and pasted it here for testing purpose. So this is my okay. So this is my file path. Now, if you ask me here, say opening the file in read mode. Say in file, open is the keyword, and I'm just using the in file and then file path. Okay. Now this line and this line, they one and same. Now see here, it's like kind of in file and what mode you wanted to open, or say sometimes even you can actually have like kind of say this also. Say there are different ways. So now you can actually use whatever that suits you. Okay, so you can actually see Perl has got a different version, so they keep upgrading and improving syntax. So you might have much more advanced syntax if you follow your latest release notes. Okay, so now ideally speaking, say the line number 10 and 12 one and same. Okay, so I just wanted to keep this here. See, now it is a while the file is being opened, we opened it here. Now I'm trying to read it. Okay, so now let's say if I wanted to run this particular code, see code. So now you see here, I have actually, the whole file content is basically now printed. Okay, so it has actually kind of, printed the whole file content, whatever is there. See here, just the whole file content is basically, that's what the script is actually doing. So it is opening a file and read mode, processing each line, and then printing it. Okay, and this is basically I kind of, write into a file. Say this is my input file. Now I'm trying to write, say I'm processing something and I'm trying to write it. Okay, after that I will write it, say lib out. So it's just the same, it's just that, and I will create, write it in a file, this something like this. So now see here, opening the file and read mode in file, and opening the file and write mode out file. And I just use a simple syntax, which makes my life easier. And then you see here, this is kind of in the write mode, and then I'm actually reading one by one line. Okay, and then I'm actually printing in both terminal and as well as in the file. Okay, and I'm closing both in and out. Okay, so if you see here, let's just see if this file exists. If it is exist, let's just remove it. So okay, this file exists, so now I'll just remove it. Okay, now let me just go and run this. See, cool. Now it has actually printed both on the terminal, and ideally there should be a file. Okay, you see here it has actually has the uh, content. It's like kind of maybe timeline, time is different. Don't bother. But now let's do a tkdiff. See, it's basically this input file and output file are one and same. Okay, say tkdiff. Okay, and then say underscore out. Say this is the input file, and then we return the whole content in the output file. Okay, now if you see this, they both exactly look same. Got it? They both exactly look same because that's what we have done. Okay, that's what we have actually done. So the next one is basically say arrays. So whatever that we have discussed, the same informations that I have actually kind of, kept it over here. So Perl and say arrays.tickle. Now the first is, let's try to go over this code, what it is printing. So ABC will have a VLSI RTL synth DFT PD. Okay, so it is basically VLSI RTL synth DFT PD. And then I have a ABCD, so XYZ, and say I'm just printing ABC first and CDE. That's exactly what it is printed, these two. Okay, next I'm just trying to get the size. Now, as I mentioned, you can actually use at ABC, okay, to get the length. Okay. Now, the other method is also this both exactly does the same thing. Say dollar hash ABC, it is going to print the same thing. Now, if you look at here, size 1 and size 2, but one thing is that, it prints the total elements, and whereas the second one, the last element value. It's basically the location value. That is the main thing. Okay. So whereas this, it prints the number of elements, and this prints the last location, as simple as that. Okay. And then now I'm just trying to add the STA in, on top of ABC, the last. Say now at ABC I'm adding sta, and then I'm trying to print it, where now you see here this is sta added. Now I'm just trying to delete, but remember I'm just removing two times, two elements I'm trying to remove. Now what it should ideally should have, see, it has actually removed two elements from your previous array. Okay, so PD and STA got removed, and it has actually printed now that ABC is actually going to have this particular thing. And then shift, okay, and unshift. Okay, you see here shift is actually removed the first element, and unshift, this is what I gave as a homework. Unshift is basically kind of adding that first element. How do you go and add an element at the start of your array? Okay, and then finally you kind of print another array. So this is how you can actually write your code, and always make sure you comment, add the comments and etc. Okay, and the same way we have a lot of things, so we write a lot of code to parse your libraries and etc. Say now if I have to say this, what it is, it actually prints. So it's basically takes one dot lib, say this particular script, it's basically this script basically picks dot lib, and it prints queries all the cells in the dot lib, say under the area of it. So it's like kind of how we are actually printing. Okay, say all these cells, say if you look at here, say this cell one, and this is the area, the cell area, and this is the next cell area. So I keep printing one by one. Okay, and then finally I am actually kind of creating an array where I would have all the cells added. See, all the cells. So now you can actually process this whole cell. So if you have it, like let's say you want to check whether you have a ckinv, you can actually check in this particular array. Okay, so now how many cells we have? Say all cells, and the count is basically, say there are total 489 cells are there. Okay, so you can actually write whatever that we discussed. If you go over and try to use, say, eventually I couldn't cover the regular expressions, but if you try to say, you can actually see everything in the same thing whatever that we discussed. Okay, so you can actually write your own code and have your own scripts, make your life easier. Okay, and say even we do have a hashes. So I could not cover it because, as I mentioned, it is basically uh, say it is kind of say the reason is like kind of warnings. So this is the warning that it is actually setting, displaying. And you can actually process multiple values, elements, and then values for each of it, and all that. Okay, and subroutines we just discussed about it. So here if you look at here, say I just defined the same thing. Now I would be just say executing this, say whatever that you pass it, it's just going to add both of that and return the sum. Okay, so now if I try to add this, if I try to run this, now you see here the sum of 5 and 10 is basically 15. So it is a, it's finally it is kind of, I'm supplying the values 5 and 10. Add is the the subroutine name, and then I'm actually kind of going and adding both the things. And now you can actually enhance it. So I have given only two things, so this function will take only two things, but you can have 100 of numbers. So you can actually add irrespective of the count, number of elements and etc. So if you go and improve, you can actually think of, see, remember, never have, when you're writing a code, never have anything something in the fixed manner, because you don't know. how many elements you will have it, and etc. So I'll always try to keep it like kind of uh, dynamic, okay, the count wise, or anything that you try to process, make it kind of dynamic structure. Okay. So so yeah, pretty much is that. And just let me, I'm just bringing up my Linux environment, just give me a minute. Okay, so now if I have to I just wanted to give you guys a minute to see here. This is basically how I created an array and how I processed and all that. Okay, so you see here how I actually define it, say scalar, and this is my array, and how I actually process my each element. Okay, and array length is basically, see, you always use at abc, you will actually have the value it kind of printed. And so if else, as I mentioned, you will have brackets instead of curly braces, wherein tickle you will have a curly braces, whereas here it is a brackets. When you are checking something, it is always curly, the brackets. Okay, and the body inside, the body is would be between the curly braces. And let's say you have a different design, say cpu and etc. And say if the design is equal to cpu, do this particular, execute this piece of code, else execute this piece of code, and etc. So, and also as I mentioned, like kind of there are more than one way to do it. See, I both the line 40 and 41 does the same work. Okay, where there is an extra bracket that is added, but even without bracket also it would actually work. Okay, so see, if you look at here, it is kind of whatever that we have written here, it is just trying to print them. So I think pretty much we have covered as much as that I wanted, but obviously there are a lot more to it. Say hashes and Perl modules, regular expressions, and lot of things. So these all we would be covering it in our mentorship sessions, because where that would be kind of we have it like kind of 2 months, we would be dedicatedly working on the scripting part. So if any of you are interested in learning further, you can get in touch with us. Okay, we will try to help you out. And here it is, as I mentioned, it is completely practical, and it is, you will hear all the problems that I solve on day-to-day basis. Okay. Okay, so there are few questions where is it tickle or pearl, which is priority and etc. So it is always the first focus, I would say, tickle, because that is what it will help you in when you start working in the tool. Okay, so pearl is secondary, so pearl will not be used inside the tool. Okay. Okay, so there are few more questions. Okay, so some of the people were like kind of, sorry, I did not see your thing. So some folks are asking array commands, can you revise it once? I think you guys can watch this recording again. I'll upload it in YouTube. Okay, so you guys can watch it again in YouTube in case if you have any doubts. Any other questions you guys have before we sign off?
Hi Kumar, Ashish here.
Yeah, hi, Ashish.
I hope you know me. Uh,
How are you?
I'm okay, sir.
Okay.
I wanted to join this course. Will
Okay,
join.
no worries. You can get in touch
Yeah.
with me. I think so there is a you have my number already, right? Since you are my
Uh,
older student, like you will have it. So you can get in
yeah.
touch with me. Okay.
So through the mail, I will ping
Yeah, sure. No
at least.
worries.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so the fee is basically 10K plus GST,
Oh,
because we are actually, so there is someone who is asking about the fee. See, it is, you know, we are enabling the tool, so you get tool access for 30 days. It is, so you might wonder, like, kind of, there might be other places where, they might give it for, less and etc. and all. But I'm sure nobody is going to ask you to write, and who nobody is going to review your code, and you can bring your own problems too. And here it is, the goal here is end of the mentorship, you should be able to write your own flow, so you can develop your own tickle utilities, Perl utilities. You would be able to write your own QA checks, all that. Please name the telegram channels also. So it is basically VLSI mentors, so you will find my telegram channel VLSI mentors. Even YouTube channel name is VLSI mentors, and website is there. You can actually get in touch with us. And so today I kind of more of covered this one, but pretty much the same content, but it is a more of problems that you would be trying to solve it. Say, if I have to ask you, get me all the inverter size. Say, should I actually, upsize from inverter 2 to inverter 4 or inverter 2 to inverter 8? At the same time, say, can I go and say some people, right, like kind of, people normally ask, or they don't follow it. Like, say, for example, you have a AOI cell. So you have a AOI cell, say X1. Now, is it upsizing this to X2? Say the area is going to be bigger. Okay. Say this is, say X. Say this is X plus delta. Okay. Now, is it upsizing this AOI is going to be better, or say AOI plus adding a buffer? Which one is going to be better? So now, if you know the scripting part, right, like kind of, it is going to be much more easier. And if you are a PD engineer, STA engineer, or synthesis engineer, your ECU preparations and all will be much more easy, and it will be less disturbance to the the DB, and you can close your design in a much faster way. Okay. And so not only that, say you may have multiple experiments. Now, how do you compare your runs? Okay, so now you write a small piece of code where you go and get your QR at placement stage and put it in, kind of two columns. Say a placement, run one placement, what is a QR, and run two, how it is, and all that. Okay, so scripting actually gonna help you a lot. Now, I'm sure there are many people approached me for this, because some of the folks are attending interviews, and people are actually asking for scripting. And also remember, if you have a scripting, if you know the scripting, right, like, it's an added advantage, and you are actually kind of paid more. You would be treated as a critical resource, and even you would be getting kind of compared to the others, your pay also could be little on the higher side. So I would suggest, wherever it is comfortable for you, go and learn. Okay, so it's need not be only here, but make sure you learn the scripting, and it is definitely going to help you in the longer run. And so probably we will try to come up with similar way, the Python as well, Python webinar in the upcoming sessions, in the upcoming weeks. Okay. So, and if any of you have not joined our Telegram group, do join. And because all the updates we would be normally post it over there, and you can find search VLSA mentors. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. And if you have questions, you can get in touch with us. And you have already, the contact numbers, and even the mail. You might have got an email, and get in touch with us if you are interested. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Bye.